Welcome. Today, we're diving into an idea from this source that might just flip everything you think you know about power. It suggests that the ultimate force in the universe isn't about strength or control, but about something totally different: humility. Let's get into it. So let me ask you, when you hear the word omnipotence, all-powerful, what's the first image that pops into your head? Seriously, what does ultimate power actually look like? Is it, a king sitting on a massive throne? Or maybe a lightning bolt crashing down from the sky, just raw, overwhelming force? Is it about having absolute, unquestionable control over everything and everyone? That's kind of the default image for most of us. Well, the source we're looking at today takes that entire idea and just turns it completely on its head. It argues that true divine power, it looks a lot more like a simple basin of water, a servant's towel, and a criminal's cross. It's a pretty radical claim, so let's see how they build that case. All right, first up, we're jumping right into the core of it, this fundamental contradiction of power. It really forces us to rethink what divinity itself even means. And you can see that contradiction laid out so clearly here. On one side, you've got our usual human definition of power, right? It's about domination, climbing the ladder for status, using force to get your way. But the divine power presented here is, well, it's the polar opposite. It's about service, choosing humility over status, and a love that's defined by sacrifice, not force. So if divine power is the opposite of worldly power, what does that look like in action? This next section argues that the ultimate symbol of this divine power, the clearest picture we have of God's true character, is actually the cross. And this is absolutely crucial to the whole argument. The idea here is that the cross isn't some kind of tragic accident or a one-time event that's separate from God's character. Instead, it's described as, and I'm quoting, the truest window into the heart of God. Basically, if you want to know what God is really like, you look right there. And this idea gives us a really important word for this whole concept: cruciform. It literally just means cross-shaped, but it's used to describe a way of life, a character that's all about this self-giving, self-sacrificing, status-renouncing kind of love. It becomes the lens for understanding everything else. And this quote, wow, it just nails the paradox, right? Theologian Jürgen Moltmann says, God is not more powerful than he is in this helplessness. Think about that. It's this incredible reversal, suggesting that God's peak power, his peak glory, is found not in flexing his strength, but in surrender and total vulnerability. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a cool idea, but the source argues this isn't some new concept tacked on at the end. Instead, it claims this cruciform nature is like a hidden thread woven through the entire biblical story, right from the very beginning. I mean, just look at these examples from the book of Genesis. God isn't portrayed as some distant, untouchable emperor. He's down in the dirt, planting a garden for people to enjoy. When they mess up, he's the one who personally sews clothes for them. He takes casual walks with them. These aren't acts of a cosmic tyrant. They're acts of personal, humble care. And this isn't just a one-off thing. The pattern keeps going. Throughout the Old Testament, God is shown acting like a guide, a provider, a protector. And the language used is so intimate, carrying the people as a man carries his son, or even bending down to feed them. This is a consistent picture of service. Okay, so if God's nature is fundamentally humble, what in the world does that mean for us? Well, that brings us to the upside-down kingdom, where the rules of greatness and leadership are completely rewritten. And here's that stark contrast again, but this time it's applied to us, to leadership. The rulers of the world lord it over others, right? They exercise authority over them. But in this upside-down kingdom, greatness is completely flipped. If you want to be great, you have to be the servant. If you want to be first, you have to be the slave of everyone. And really, Jesus just comes right out and says it. This quote sums up the entire philosophy. He says the model isn't to be served, but to serve, and not just a little, but to the point of giving up your own life for others. This is the image that really drives it home. The symbol of ultimate lordship isn't a crown or a scepter. It's a towel. The person who is presented as the Lord of the universe is the exact same person who got down on his knees to do the work of the lowest slave, washing his friend's filthy feet. Here, authority and service are the exact same thing. All right, this all leads us to the grand finale of the argument. This is the ultimate, final image of power presented in the book of Revelation. what's called the Way of the Lamb. And this is a moment of pure drama in the text. There's a search for someone worthy enough to open this scroll and enact God's plan. Everyone's expecting a conquering hero, a symbol of strength and royalty, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. But when they turn to look, who do they see? A lamb. And not just any lamb, but one that looks as though it had been slaughtered. The symbol of conquering force is totally replaced by the symbol of ultimate sacrifice. And get this isn't just a fleeting image. The source points out that the word lamb shows up 28 times in the book of Revelation. That repetition is a huge flashing sign saying, pay attention to this. The source even breaks down the symbolism, the number 7 for divine completeness, multiplied by 4, the number for all creation. The point is, this slain lamb is absolutely central to everything. So what's the reaction in heaven to seeing this slain lamb at the center of power? A massive chorus of praise. And listen to why he's worthy. It's not because he conquered with a sword. They shout, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain." His worthiness to receive all power and glory comes directly from his act of sacrifice. So after all that, this is where we land. This is the final conclusion of the argument. The throne at the center of the universe isn't occupied by a lion, but by a lamb. The ultimate symbol of authority, the very definition of power, is an image of sacrificial, humble, self-giving love. And so that leaves us with a pretty huge question to wrestle with. If this source is right, if the very nature of ultimate power is humility, how does that completely change our own definition of strength? What does it mean for us to be strong in a world that so often values the exact opposite?